With Death Stranding 2 on the beach right around the corner, I, Suggestive Gaming, thought there would be no better time to cover the famously complex storyline of the first title from Kojima Productions. Yes, this video's only going to go over the story of one game, but it's still a Hideo Kojima game, so strap in. While Death Stranding's story is told in such a way where certain information and backstory isn't revealed until later in the narrative, I'm going to try to piece everything together as chronologically as possible. As such, I can only recommend watching this video to those who have already played the game and are looking for a refresher or better understanding of the plot. Newcomers to the series should definitely play the first game to experience the story as intended, but then come back to this video to like, comment, and subscribe. Seriously, while I'd love the views, the first few sentences of this video alone will spoil the ending of the game, so turn back now if you're not prepared. You've been warned. Also note that much like with every open world, massive universe containing game that I've covered on this series, I'm going to have to leave out or breeze over a fair amount of side quests and secondary characters. This video is going to focus on the straight through story of the narrative rather than acting as a massive lore exploration or dive into the universe, so keep that in mind as we begin. Now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about Death Stranding. Our story begins literally at the dawn of time. Across the millennia of Earth's existence, the planet experiences 5 mass extinction events, which wipe out a majority of plant and animal species. Each of these events are triggered by a being called an extinction entity. Driven by a primal urge to their connection to the beach, a liminal shoreline connecting the world of the living and what comes after death, each of these EEs act in such a way to be the catalyst of each of their respective extinction events. While each individual living being has their own beach, where their soul goes after death, these EEs have access to a shared beach, one from which they influence the living world. At some point in the 21st century, the 6th extinction event approaches, one meant for humankind. Unbeknownst to the world, a woman in the United States named Bridget Strand is the 6th extinction entity. Dreams of a new mass extinction haunt Bridget throughout her life, but she avoids acting to cause it. During her 20s, however, Bridget, now a high-ranking official for a growingly fractured United States, contracts uterine cancer, something she theorizes could have been the beach punishing her for failing in her extinction entity duties. While undergoing treatment for her cancer, something unprecedented occurs. Bridget's being is split in 2. At this point, her soul, or Ka, awakens, stranded on the beach while her body, or Ha, remains on the hospital bed. Though she's left without a soul, Bridget's body retains her own distinct personality, naming her stranded Ka Amelie. This event leaves Bridget, recovered and now the Vice President of the United States, fascinated with the beach. She begins researching and experimenting with the realm, conceptualizing the chiral network, a means to send data and communications through the beach, whose disconnection from time would allow for seemingly instantaneous transfer speeds. This network is named after the mysterious chiral matter which exists on the beach, most notably in its crystalline form called beryllium. While this research is ongoing, however, another event merges the beach with the world of the living. After a pregnant mother is left brain dead from an unknown cause, a doctor attempts to deliver her baby via cesarean section. When he attempts to cut the baby's umbilical cord, however, the doctor senses a new kind of being, one whose soul is stranded in the world of the living, a beached thing, or BT. While these BTs are normally unseen by the human eye, the baby's umbilical cord connection to the world of the dead through their mother, who is effectively in limbo between life and death, allows the doctor to see a BT for the first time in the history of humanity. Shortly after these events, a massive explosion occurs when the BT's antimatter combines with the matter of the physical world, releasing a violent blast of energy. This explosion, later called a void out, is large enough to destroy an entire city, and the sitting president of the United States is within the blast radius. As the next in succession, Bridget becomes the President of the United States of America. Fearing the void out was a sign of the approaching extinction event, Bridget founds a company called Bridges, secretly leading it wearing a mask so as to conceal her true identity as the president. Bridges continues research on the beach, primarily through the Bridge Baby program, which aims to reproduce the birthing process that led to the detection of the BT in order to better understand them. The Bridge Babies, or BBs, are 7-month-old fetuses, removed via C-sections from their brain-dead mothers and placed into pods that simulate the conditions of their still mother's womb, allowing them to feel as if they've never left it. Of the Bridge Babies, one is the son of former United States Army Special Forces Captain Clifford Unger and his common-law wife, Lisa Bridges. When the pregnant Lisa is left brain-dead after a tragic accident, Cliff, desperate to save her and their child through Bridges' experimental treatment, contacts his former squadmate, John Blake McClane. McClane, now known mononymously as Die-Hardman thanks to his knack for surviving the war zone, is currently working directly under President Strand on the Bridge Baby project. Not knowing their true purpose for his son, Cliff allows Bridges to deliver him via C-section while keeping his wife on life support, placing the baby in a pod afterwards for further research. This baby's potential catches the eye of Bridget, who decides to use him as the basis for her chiral network. In order to anchor the network to the beach, however, the baby's life must, essentially, be sacrificed. When Die-Hardman learns of these plans, they weigh heavily on his conscience, forcing him to secretly inform his former captain, Cliff. The pair then immediately devise a plan to get Cliff's son out of Bridges' custody. During the daring mission, Die-Hardman works to pull the wool over Bridges' eyes, allowing Cliff to secretly enter and visit his wife for the last time. Kissing her goodbye, Cliff promises his wife to take care of their son. After Die-Hardman spoofs her vital signs, Cliff puts Lisa to rest with a single gunshot, taking their son, still housed in his pod, with him as he flees the facility. On his way out, however, Cliff is discovered and stopped by Bridges' security forces. He bluffs by holding his gun to the BB, threatening the company's asset and forcing them to let him go. As he turns, though, one security officer opens fire, hitting Cliff in the back. Die-Hardman arrives and commands them to stand down, rushing to assist Cliff, who's now collapsed from the gunshot. As heavy reinforcements arrive, Cliff stands and holds Die-Hardman hostage, bluffing again to prevent their gunfire. After thanking his old friend for trying, Cliff pushes Die-Hardman towards his guards, creating enough of a distraction to run back to Lisa's room. Unfortunately, as Die-Hardman soon points out, still masking his involvement, Cliff is simply running into a dead end. Inside Lisa's room, Cliff shoots the security mechanism locking the doors, preventing them from opening again. The weakened man crawls over to his wife's corpse, apologizing for his failures and accepting his approaching fate. While Die-Hardman feebly tries to convince his security forces to look elsewhere, a masked Bridget then arrives to instruct her men to cut through the doors. As the heavily armored security forces rush in, one shoots Cliff again, leaving him barely breathing while clutching the BB pod. As he stares into his son's eyes, Cliff recounts his fear of becoming a father, causing him to leave the army so he could always be there for his family. In his last moments, Cliff realizes that it wasn't fear that drove him, but bravery. Die-Hardman helps Cliff to a seated position, and a guard retrieves the BB pod and hands it to Bridget. As Cliff tells his son not to make the same mistakes he did, and instead live his life freely as himself, Bridget looks into the pod to make a shocking realization. It's empty. She looks down and sees the premature child in his father's arms, free from his captivity. With no other choice, Die-Hardman is forced to raise his weapon to his former captain, pleading with him to hand the baby over. Bridget, meanwhile, urgently commands him to shoot Cliff. When he hesitates, Bridget grabs his hand herself and forces him to fire the weapon twice, striking and killing Cliff Unger. Cliff's body then goes limp, and as his arms sprawl open, his son rolls onto the floor, also tragically struck and killed by one of the bullets. Bridget rushes to the baby, but it's too late. Her key to the chiral network is gone, swept away with the lives of Cliff Unger and Lisa Bridges. However, on the beach, Bridget's Ka, Amelie, searches for the baby. She soon finds him, calling out to him as Sam. She picks up the lifeless baby, sealing the opening where his umbilical cord was cut, before restoring life to the child through her connection to the beach. Cliff watches from the waters, and as Amelie then places Sam into them, he sinks. As he sinks, a new ability awakens within him: repatriation. This ability allows Sam's soul to return to his body, and he awakens back in his pod to see a very relieved, unmasked Bridget Strand along with her right-hand man, Die-Hardman. The latter quickly points out that the baby's days as a BB are done, considering his connection to the other side is now severed. Bridget decides to take the baby out of the pod, electing to raise him as her own under the name Sam Strand. Following Sam's resurrection, however, the world is forever changed. The beach begins to entwine itself with the living world. Chiralium begins to appear on Earth, and its introduction to the atmosphere leads to a meteorological phenomenon that's come to be known as timefall. During timefall, precipitation falls much like rain or snow, but due to the chiral matter's connection to the beach, whatever it touches experiences an extreme acceleration of time. Far greater than the threat of the timefall is the sudden appearance of more and more BTs. Due to the beach's connection to the living world, the soul of any human who dies remains tethered to its lifeless body. Over the following 48 hours, the body's natural necrosis process is replaced with a new one, in which chiral matter fills the corpse, submerging them into a tar-like substance before they emerge as a new BT. These BTs, if allowed to come in contact with a living human, trigger additional void-outs throughout the world. To prevent more and more destruction, humankind quickly learns to incinerate their dead before they necrotize, although they must do it away from populated areas, as the chiralium released from the bodies into the air brings more timefall, and with it, BT presence. These connected phenomena come to be known as an event called the Death Stranding. The damage from the void-outs cause governments around the world to collapse. The United States of America dissolves into fractured city-states and prepper bunkers, separated by stretches of land now claimed by roaming BTs. As society crumbles, roads, highways, trains, planes, and other means of physical travel become nearly non-existent. Bridget Strand, America's last president, shifts Bridges' goals to rebuild the country under the new banner of the United Cities of America, or UCA. They continue their work on the chiral network, relaunching the Bridge Baby program to serve a new purpose. In order to transport goods between the disconnected cities, package carriers, or porters, are entrusted with a BB in a pod. Through a connection with the BB, as well as the baby's connection to the other side, porters are then able to detect the presence of BTs, allowing them to navigate through their territory to make deliveries. These BBs, however, have a shelf life, as they eventually realize their womb is artificial. After this occurs, usually shortly after 1 year, the BB is removed from commission. True to her word, Bridget raises Sam as her own son, and while he's aware that he's a repatriate, he has no knowledge of his true parents or the horrific events that led to his brief visit to the beach. During his adolescence, however, Sam quickly realizes his connection to the other side. He's plagued with nightmares of the forthcoming extinction and can sense the presence of BTs on his own. This condition comes to be known as dooms, and Bridget and Amelie learn to grant it to others as well, studying various levels that grant more abilities to the sufferer. Worst of all, Sam often awakens to find himself trapped on the beach, left to wander along the unending shore. Luckily, Amelie finds him again and again, and he quickly grows to know her as his sister. To help him deal with his nightmares, Amelie gives Sam a dream catcher to wear, promising to always be with him as long as he has it. However, as she gives it to him, she makes him promise her that when the time comes to stop her, he'll use it to do so. In return, Sam crafts a quipu for his sister, a knotted necklace, and his strong connection to it allows him to bring the physical object with him to the beach. After giving it to her, Amelie puts it on, and never removes it thereafter. In the living world, Sam isn't left without lasting effects from his origin. He develops a psychological condition that causes intense physical discomfort and even allergic reactions whenever he's touched, called aphanphasmophobia. As Sam reaches adulthood, Bridget introduces the world to her other adult daughter, Samantha America Strand, more commonly called Amelie. Unbeknownst to the public, Amelie is actually Bridget's separated Ka, who hasn't aged since her creation decades ago due to the beach's detachment from the passage of time. Bridget claims that her daughter was born with a condition that caused her soul to be born on the beach, masking her true origin. Bridget claims that her daughter's advanced Dooms abilities have finally allowed her to freely travel to and from the beach, but in reality, Amelie is simply creating visual projections of herself in the living world using chiral matter. As an adult, Sam joins Bridges, taking advantage of his unique abilities to help drive them towards their goal of uniting the fractured cities. During his work with Bridges, Bridget has him meet with one of their therapists, a woman named Lucy, to try to overcome his aphanphasmophobia. The two meet, and Sam quickly shares his stories of dooms, repatriation, and his experiences on the beach. Through their sessions, the two fall in love, causing Lucy to resign before the couple marry shortly after. When Lucy gets pregnant, however, their unborn child, planned to be named Louise, inherits her father's Dooms condition. As Lucy nears childbirth, she begins to have apocalyptic nightmares of the beach, suffering the Dooms symptom through her fetal daughter. Left unable to face the forthcoming extinction, as well as her potential role in it, Lucy intentionally overdoses while alone, taking her and their daughter Lou's lives. Left alone while Sam is away, Lucy's body is allowed to necrotize, causing a massive void out that obliterates their entire city. There's only one survivor of the blast, and that's only because he was resurrected afterwards. Sam, as a repatriate, is left to walk out of his city alone. Left devastated and broken by his loss, as well as his guilt for causing it, Sam resigns from Bridges. He then begins working as a freelance porter, spending the next decade building his reputation as the legendary deliverer Sam Porter, while living in his own self-exile. Bridget, meanwhile, continues her work with Bridges, still attempting to connect the various cities of America. She recruits various others to assist her in the development of the chiral network, including the creators of its hardware and software, respectively, a pair of scientists named Mulligan and Lochner. The pair were born with Dooms and conjoined at the head. When they were separated at birth, they both fully recovered, but found while growing up that they could telepathically communicate with one another no matter the distance between them. Lochner soon falls in love with a fellow Bridges member, but she's unfortunately unable to carry a child to term. When Lochner's partner dies in an accident, she's left emotionally devastated. Feeling her pain through their shared connection, Mulligan suggests that the pair have a baby, offering to carry the pregnancy in her womb using Lochner's egg and her late partner's frozen sperm. However, while she's in the hospital awaiting her C-section, the building is struck by a group of terrorists opposing Bridges. Pinned under the rubble for days, Mulligan is forced to survive by drinking Timefall, eventually giving birth to the baby on the other side. Mulligan hears the baby's cries silence as an ethereal umbilical cord connects her to a small baby BT. Eventually, Mulligan is discovered by Bridges, but she's unable to leave the site of the hospital as the BT, along with herself by extension, is tethered to the location. Mulligan, now taking on the moniker of Mama, continues her work for Bridges, who builds her a new laboratory over the hospital's ruins. Mama's experience not only leaves her tethered to the lab, but it leaves her somewhere between alive and dead. Her pulse flatlines, causing her to hide her vitals from Bridges. Even worse, however, is that this partial death severs her supernatural connection with her twin sister, cutting off the constant communication that she's thus had her entire life with Lochna. Left ashamed, Mama decides to continue her work alone in the lab with her baby BT, isolating herself from Lochna completely. Bridget also recruits Deadman, a man born via an experimental genetic mix grown in an artificial womb. This left him without a Ka, or his own beach. Physically, he requires various transplanted organs in order to survive, creating something of a Frankenstein's monster, as he later refers to himself. To maintain this aura, Deadman goes even further by falsely claiming that these donations came from cadavers. His fascination with death leads him to work as a coroner for Bridges. Additionally, Bridget recruits Heartman, whose story may be the most tragic of all. While in a hospital ICU undergoing surgery on his heart, two nearby voidouts occur at the same time, leaving two overlapping craters in the ground, coincidentally in the shape of a heart. While the hospital is spared from the blasts, the ensuing shockwaves take out the power, bringing down Heartman's life support and stopping his heart. He then suddenly finds himself on the beach. Looking around, he sees the casualties of the voidouts, walking off to the waters towards the world of the dead. Among the procession, he's shocked to find are his wife and child. While he tries to reach them, the power in the hospital is restored, and the doctors on the other side attempt to resuscitate him. As they successfully restart his heart, Heartman is forcefully pulled from the beach and away from his lost family. Obsessed with finding his family and moving on with them, Heartman replicates the events of his death and resurrection over and over again. Staying beating for 24 minutes, his heart then stops for 3, ultimately leading to a resuscitation, which restarts the cycle. This continuous cycle of life and death occurs 60 times a day, and Heartman uses these trips to study the beach, but more importantly, to search for his family. This repeated start and stop ultimately damages his already genetically deformed heart, which is shaped like a heart symbol, earning him his nickname. Along with Die-Hardman, now wearing the mask Bridget once did to completely hide his former identity, the USA's last president enacts her final plan to create her vision of the United Cities of America. Amelie then embarks on a journey westward across the continent, hoping to spread Bridges' message and convince the various cities to join the chiral network. Starting on the east coast of the former United States, she travels with a group of fellow Bridges members, building facilities and terminals to connect to the network in the cities that allow them to. During this period, private delivery companies pop up, one of the largest of which is called Fragile Express, named after the daughter of its founders. When Fragile, a doom sufferer, takes over the company in her adulthood, she continues growing it before merging with her main competitor to the west, effectively making Fragile Express the only delivery company in the region. Unbeknownst to Fragile, however, the president of the company Fragile Express merged with, a fellow doom sufferer named Higgs, has been having secret discussions with Fragile's mother, under the pseudonym of Coffin. Coffin informs Higgs of Bridget's experiments using unborn children, ultimately leading to their decommission by slaughter. This leads Higgs to build a deep hatred for Bridget, as well as an opposition to the idea of the UCA. At some unknown point, Higgs is discovered by Amelie. To Higgs, she reveals the truth behind her abilities, and finally explains her ultimate goal: to fulfill her duty as an extinction entity by outdoing her predecessors in a massive event she calls the Last Stranding. This plan involves uniting America through the chiral network so she can combine everyone's beach with her own, forming a massive seam between worlds. Through this seam, enough BTs could flood the living world at once that the massive amount of antimatter will wipe out all life entirely. Seduced by the power Amelie is able to grant him, including a dooms level so high that he can control BTs directly, Higgs effectively becomes Amelie's agent of extinction. She provides him with a bridge baby of his own. However, it's not a real baby, but instead a doll that still grants him the ability to sense BTs. However, he quickly grows impatient with how long her plan is taking, as well as jealous of her belief that Sam will somehow be the one to usher in the end of days. Donning a golden, skull-like mask, Higgs leads an effort to combine the various splintered separatist groups into one large militant terrorist organization called Homo Demons. Hoping to stop the UCA and capture Amelie so he can use her to trigger the Last Stranding himself, Higgs commands the group to attack various cities to prevent their connection. As part of this mission, Higgs secretly sends a nuclear bomb to Fragile Express for delivery to Middle Knot City in the central region of the continent. Not knowing the package's contents, Fragile makes the delivery, only for it to detonate not long after, leaving a massive, BT-filled crater where the city once was. Fragile then realizes that the demons are attempting the same plot with a delivery to South Knot City. She intercepts the bomb, but is soon stopped on her way out of the city and captured by Higgs. During a timefall storm, Higgs strips her down to almost nothing and offers her a choice. She can take the bomb and safely dispose of it in a nearby tar pit, but she'll have to run through the timefall, severely aging her entire body. Fragile then states that she'll take the damage and the goods, before Higgs places a mask on her face and allows her to run out into the rain to save the city. Despite these sacrificial measures, rumors still swirl about Fragile Express's involvement in the Middle Knot City attack, completely destroying their reputation, along with causing the world to accuse Fragile herself of being a terrorist. 3 years into Amelie's westward journey, the team finishes their expedition and reaches Edge Knot City on the west coast. Unfortunately, they fall right into Higgs's final trap. Homo Demons attacks the city and takes control, holding Amelie hostage in the process. Using the abilities Amelie granted him herself, Higgs surrounds the city in the strange, tar-like substance, effectively walling it off with BTs. 10 years into his isolation, Sam Porter makes his way towards Central Knot City to make a critical delivery of smart drugs. When he's caught in a timefall storm, he catches a glimpse of a woman holding an umbrella, Fragile. He swerves to avoid her, causing him to lose his motorcycle. Sam, who notices the woman is now mysteriously gone, is forced to continue on foot, taking shelter in a nearby cave to wait out the storm. Inside the cave, a photograph falls out of his pocket. As he goes to retrieve it, a drop of timefall falls on it. The photo, which was once of himself, his pregnant wife Lisa, and his adoptive mother Bridget, is now faded where the drop fell, removing his last recorded memory of his wife from him. As he goes to retrieve it, Sam notices handprints appearing in the mud around him, sensing surrounding BTs thanks to his dooms. When he thinks they've passed, Sam goes to grab the photo again, but is stopped this time by a hand grabbing him, instantly triggering his aphamphasm phobia. He looks to see Fragile, who quietly signals that the BTs are still nearby. The pair hold their breath to avoid detection until the BTs drift away. Afterwards, they exit the cave, looking up to the sky to faintly see 5 floating figures before they vanish along with the storm. Fragile introduces herself and quickly realizes that Sam is a fellow Doom sufferer. She offers him a job working for Fragile Express, but he declines and the pair part ways, with Fragile using an ability granted to her by her advanced level of Dooms, transportation using the beach, effectively allowing her to teleport from one location to another. Sam continues his delivery, braving the terrain to finally reach Central Knot City, where he turns in the smart drugs to complete it. After Mama thanks him via transmission, Sam is met with an urgent message for a new commission. He walks outside, where he's met by a Bridges transport vehicle pulling up. A man named Igor Frank introduces himself to Sam as a member of Bridges' corpse disposal team. Opting to explain on the way, Igor climbs into the truck with Sam to show him their cargo, the corpse of a man who took his own life, hours away from necrotizing. Using his Dooms, Sam determines that the body has already begun the process, making the situation even more dire. The group are then forced to cross BT territory to get to the nearest incinerator, but Igor is confident that with Sam's Dooms and his own bridge baby, they'll be able to avoid the beached things to complete their mission. When they enter another Titanfall storm, the group are ambushed by BTs, causing their transport truck to crash. When Sam comes to, he finds Igor frantically trying to pull the driver out from the overturned vehicle as the BTs surround them. Their cargo, the corpse, unfortunately necrotizes right before their eyes, submerging into the tar-like substance before emerging as a fresh BT, which immediately rushes over and pulls the driver away. Igor is forced to pull his pistol and shoot the man before he can be consumed, avoiding a void out. Unfortunately, a masked Higgs then appears to bring the BTs back. They grab Igor and he detaches his BB, throwing it to Sam while telling him to run. Igor is then grabbed by a massive BT and swept off of his feet before he can aim his pistol at his own head. As he's pulled into the air, Igor frantically stabs himself, trying to prevent a void out. Despite his sacrificial efforts, the BT is able to consume him while he's still alive, triggering a massive blast. Sam grabs the bridge baby and shields it while the pair are swept up in the void out. Central Knot City is completely destroyed in the blast. Sam then finds himself on the beach, where he sees the bridge baby, with no pod, on the sand beside him. He picks up the baby and holds it close, but suddenly the cries stop and the baby vanishes, leaving small, BT-like handprints in the sand. Sam then stands to see the 5 figures floating in the sky before they vanish again. After a quick vision of Amelie, Sam repatriates to return to the living world. There, he looks around to see the crater where Central Knot City once stood. In his arms, luckily, is the surviving BB, its pod unharmed thanks to Sam shielding it from the blast. 2 days later, Sam awakens in a Bridges facility, handcuffed to a bed. Deadman appears via chiral projection from a nearby isolation ward and introduces himself before remotely releasing one of Sam's cuffs. He then explains that the other should stay on, as it'll keep him connected to Bridges while simultaneously monitoring his vitals. He further explains that while the BB survived the blast, it was left broken, left unable to detect BTs. As such, it's been marked for disposal. Deadman tells Sam that he's currently in Bridges' new headquarters, a base in capital Knot City. He then tasks Sam with another delivery, taking morphine to President Bridget Strand, whose cancer has returned and is now in its final stages. He reluctantly agrees, taking the drugs to bring to Deadman in person in the isolation ward. Sam delivers the morphine to Deadman before he's led to the president's office, where he finds her in a hospital bed alongside Die-Hardman. After a brief reunion with the masked director of bridges, Sam approaches his mother, and the other two men leave them alone. Although she's weak, Bridget informs Sam about his sister's mission and subsequent capture, asking for his help in rescuing her and reconnecting America to save humanity. Sam simply reminds her that America is dead and gone, refusing her request. Panicked, Bridget reaches for him, and the pair fall to the ground. Sam's phobia makes him crawl away from the dying woman, who's already starting to produce the tar-like substance. She then tells Sam that she loves him, before uttering her final words, "I'll see you on the beach," a phrase that echoes through Amelie. Deadman rushes in and carries the president back to her hospital bed, but it's too late. Bridget Strand, the United Cities of America's first president and the United States' last, passes away from her cancer. The situation quickly turns from somber to dire, as Deadman and Die-Hardman realize that they must incinerate the president's body before it necrotizes, optimally without the public finding out about her death. With no other option, Sam reluctantly agrees to carry his adoptive mother's corpse up the mountains to the nearest incinerator. After the two Bridges officials strap the cargo to Sam's back, he begins his delivery, perhaps the most important of his life thus far. Climbing the mountains, Sam reaches the facility and brings the president's corpse to the incinerator. Slowly placing her inside, Sam says a silent goodbye before Bridget is lowered into the chamber. The flames then ignite, cremating the president and preventing a new BT. However, an immediate spike in chiralium then occurs, triggering a heavy timefall storm. Sam then notices another piece of cargo that he was sent with to destroy, Igor's broken bridge baby, codenamed BB-28. While Sam has some reservations about incinerating a living child, Deadman implores him to dispose of the broken piece of equipment. Suddenly, the power to the facility goes out, and BTs soon arrive along with timefall. Instead of incinerating BB-28, Sam decides to give it another chance instead. Sam then hooks into the BB pod, giving him a quick flash of his own lost memories of his time spent in one. BB-28 begins to work, helping Sam locate and avoid BTs as he makes his way back to Capital Knot City. There, he meets Deadman, handing him BB-28 and claiming that they all owe their lives to the baby. Deadman agrees to look after the BB, sending Sam to his private room to meet the new president of the UCA. After Sam recovers in his private room, he returns to the president's office to meet the new face of America, Amelie. Taking her mother's place, Amelie appears via chiral projection from Edge Knot City, isolated there but still allowed to speak with Bridges by her Homo Demon's captors. Die-Hardman and Amelie then reveal why Bridget brought Sam there in the first place, to retrace Bridges 1's steps on their westward voyage, connecting all of the chiral network terminals that have now finished construction. To accomplish this task, Sam is given a Cupid, the hardware developed by Lochna containing the security and operations protocols that he must insert into each of the terminals to integrate them into the chiral network. Sam declines the job once again, storming out of the room. Die-Hardman convinces him to sleep on the decision, and Deadman arrives with the reconfigured BB-28, giving the pod to Sam to take back with him to his private room. As Sam sleeps, he is taken to the beach, where Amelie meets him. She reminds him that he'll always be Sam Strand, and that their bond can never be broken. She hugs him and asks him to come back, before walking into the sunset over the waters. Sam then awakens, and he's visited by Die-Hardman, who asks him if he's made a decision. While he notes that he doesn't share their goal of connecting the world, he admits that he'll still do anything to help Amelie. Sam then takes the Cupid and wears it around his neck, suiting up to begin his journey to reconnect America. On his way out, he connects up to BB-28, triggering another disjointed memory of Cliff, whom he doesn't recognize but refers to himself in the vision as Daddy. Sam is unable to comprehend these visions and has no clue that they're actually his own memories. Sam then embarks towards Port Knot City, on the shore of the lake that formed in the crater left by the very first void out. On his way, he works with other various individuals in way stations along the way to deliver parcels and connect more terminals to the network. He also encounters a new type of threat in the form of mules, individuals who live with an insatiable addiction to stealing cargo from porters. Even the mules know not to mess with BTs, however, and they retreat whenever a timefall storm rolls in. Sam soon learns another benefit of the chiral network: chiral construction. Using chiralium and other materials, Sam is able to construct bridges and various other resources. Other porters then begin to do the same, sharing their work and making everyone's collective jobs a bit easier. Mama also ends up developing anti-BT weapons using Sam's own blood, which the creatures have a negative response to. Eventually, Sam reaches Port Knot City and uses the Cupid to get them online. When the man who greets him, Victor Frank, recognizes a charm of an astronaut named Lumens on BB-28's pod, Sam is forced to give him the news that it once belonged to Igor, his now dead brother. Needing a way across the lake to continue west, Victor recommends Sam check with a private company to charter a boat, one Sam quickly recognizes as Fragile Express. As Sam goes to the harbor, however, he's stopped by Higgs, along with a group of BTs under his control. Higgs introduces himself to Sam, noticing Fragile watching them from afar. Higgs gets closer to Sam and senses through his feelings that Bridget has died and Amelie has taken her place. Higgs taunts Sam with the knowledge that Amelie is an extinction entity, cryptically referring to her as their Angel of Death. The masked man then summons a massive BT, leaving Sam alone to fight it. Knowing that he can't allow the BT to consume anyone, lest another void out wipe out Port Knot City, Sam is forced to take the BT head on. Using his own blood as a weapon, Sam is able to defeat the creature for the first time in human history. After collecting the massive amount of chiralium left in the BT's wake, Sam continues to the harbor to look for Fragile. Luckily, she meets him there, filling him in on her history with Higgs as she takes Sam to her boat. The pair then climb aboard and begin to sail across the cratered lake. On the ride over, Fragile tries to speak with Sam, but he coldly ignores her, drifting off to sleep instead, dreaming of Amelie. When he awakens, he finds that the boat has docked, and Fragile welcomes him to Lake Knot City. After delivering some cargo, Sam links up the city before Amelie and Die-Hardman inform him that with the destruction of Middle Knot City, he'll have to gain the support of various independent shelters to bolster the chiral network. Fragile agrees to use the goodwill her company has left with those in the region to assist Bridges, using it as an opportunity to get back at Higgs. She then gives Sam a cord woven with her blood and chiral crystals, signifying their bond, while pointing out how their paths keep crossing, hinting at something more than sheer coincidence. Additionally, she offers to help Sam even further by letting him call her to jump across space together using her control of her beach. After assisting some shelters and convincing them to join the UCA, with some being easier to convince than others, Sam's visited one night by Fragile in his private room, who helps herself to his shower while he's asleep. She again assures him that Fragile Express had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks, despite the rumors that Sam's heard through his travels. She admits her part in the explosion that took Middle Knot City, but tells her story of sacrificing her body to save South Knot, finally earning Sam's trust. Meanwhile, Deadman attempts to find out about BB-28's history, to try to learn the truth behind the vision Sam encounters when connecting up to it. Unfortunately, his trail stops dead, as BB-28's service record is completely locked down. Sam continues delivering supplies to various remote facilities as he proceeds west, bringing them onto the network and learning of their plans to help rebuild society as he goes. Among these are a junk dealer, who believes his lost love, a woman who makes art with beryllium, was killed in a terrorist attack, blaming Fragile Express, and by extension, Sam. Luckily, Fragile is able to learn that the woman is still alive, and Sam is able to find her and bring her back to the junk dealer, reuniting the couple, who promptly get engaged to marry. These actions earn Sam the junk dealer's trust, servitude, and chiral network terminal. As Sam takes an order for South Knot City, the delivery terminal suddenly goes offline. A Bridges technician then arrives, suspiciously with the brim of his hat covering his eyes. Although he doesn't know it, this technician is actually a disguised Higgs, who gives him an order that was left off accidentally, one addressed to Fragile herself. Warning Sam that the contents are fragile, the man runs off, leaving the porter to take it to South Knot City. Fortunately, Sam is able to see through this ruse, either with or without Fragile's help. Sam instead throws the package into the nearby crater lake, revealing its contents were in fact explosives, which detonate safely under the tar pits. After thwarting another attempt at South Knot City's destruction, Fragile appears next to Sam to thank him for stopping Higgs' latest attempt at framing her. After finally sharing the full details of her experience with Higgs at South Knot City, she makes Sam promise her that however things end with Higgs, he'll leave him alive for her to take care of. She wants to find out for herself why he betrayed her. When Sam makes his delivery to South Knot City and brings it online, however, bad turns to weird. As Amelie thanks Sam for making it halfway through his journey, her transmission suddenly cuts out. Mama then tells Sam to be careful, as there's been a massive chiral spike in his vicinity. Sam exits the Bridges facility out into the city, only to spot a massive timefall storm approaching. He's quickly swept up in a vortex with several beached whales before he blacks out. Cliff Unger then emerges on a beach, seemingly one shared by the fallen soldiers of the First World War. Cliff, on an endless search for his BB, takes the role as commander, leading a squad of skeleton soldiers to assist in his hunt. Seeing Sam, he recognizes the BB pod, but not the adult man. Not knowing that Sam is truly his son, Cliff goes after BB-28, prompting a battle between the porter and the skeleton squad. When Sam eventually defeats Unger, the man falls, but still attempts to pull the BB pod away from Sam. As the two men are pulled close, Sam sees another vision of Cliff's attempted escape. Suddenly, he finds himself back outside the Bridges facility in South Knot City. Mama calls and explains that the moment Sam exited the facility, the storm stopped and the chiral levels instantly dropped. While Sam feels like he's been gone for hours, Mama explains that comms were only down for a second. Hoping to learn more about his experience, and considering her lab is on the way, Sam decides to pay Mama a visit in person. When Sam reaches Mama's lab, he's shocked to learn of her current condition, still tethered to the BT of her stillborn daughter by her ethereal umbilical cord. Mama shows Sam the weather data proving that the storm only lasted 1 second. However, when she pulls the data from his cuff, she finds audio recordings of the battlefield, giving them something to look into at least. After another chiral spike in the area, Mama realizes that the expanding chiral network is leading to dangerous increases of chiral levels. She notes that she had installed special limiters in the Cupids to prevent this issue, so his must be faulty. She gives him a new Cupid, but notes that the software on it must be updated, and the only person who can do that is her twin sister, Lochna, who's currently in Mountain Knot City. After Mama tells Sam the story of how she wound up in her current predicament, she takes a sample of his blood to test before sending him on his way to find her sister. Shortly after, Sam is visited by a projection of Amelie in his private room. Sam quickly notes that her Kipu is missing. Higgs has taken it, and the city is growing more and more dangerous for her to stay in. Amelie urges Sam to finish the network before she suddenly disappears. When Sam reaches Mountain Knot City, he finds Lochna less than receptive to the idea of joining the UCA, believing that expanding the chiral network is just asking for another Death Stranding. With her refusing to even listen to Sam, he's forced to return to Mama to see if she can talk some sense into her sister. When he returns to Mama's lab, she gives Sam a new set of cuffs imbued with his blood, which should allow him to cut the umbilical cords tying BTs to the land of the living, returning them to the world of the dead. To test this theory, she tells Sam to cut the cord tying her to her baby BT. Sam reluctantly does so, finally setting them free. As Mama says goodbye to her baby, her connection to the living world begins to fade. She asks Sam to take her to Mountain Knot City to reunite with her sister, and he agrees, strapping her to his back as cargo. However, just as Sam leaves Mama's lab, he finds Higgs waiting for him. Somehow channeling the chiral energy in his mask, he summons a massive, lion-like BT before sicking it on Sam and leaving. With no other choice, Sam is forced to run, safely escaping with his cargo to continue up the mountains. When Sam finally arrives at Mountain Knot City, he helps Malingen onto a stretcher, and Lochna rushes out to finally reunite with her twin sister face to face after years apart. The sisters apologize and share their love for one another, with Malingen finally revealing the loss of their baby. While she states that she wasn't able to save their daughter, Lochna still has the ability to save their entire world. Malingen then urges her sister to fix Sam's new Cupid. Telling Lochna she loves her one last time, Malingen's Ha's connection to the living world closes, and her body falls dead. Later, Lochna updates the code on Sam's Cupid, finally allowing him to use it to connect Mountain Knot City to the chiral network. When he does, Lochna suddenly perks up. One of her eyes turns blue, the same color that were her sister's, and suddenly she feels Malingen in her mind once again. Almost like before Malingen's accident, the sisters now live together as two minds in one person. Unfortunately, when Sam returns to his private room, he's met with an alarmed Deadman, who states some news. BB-28 is starting to become self-aware, growing into an actual child. While Sam doesn't see that as a problem, Deadman proclaims that at its current rate, the BB will become bricked within a few days. To correct this, Sam allows Deadman to take the BB-28 with him to conduct a procedure to reconnect it to the other side. However, when Deadman admits that the BB might lose its memories, Sam grabs it, asking if the baby, whom he started to call Lou, will still remember him. Deadman then snatches the BB pod, which expels some waste fluid on him, covering his suit. Deadman then helps himself to Sam's personal shower, but when Sam looks over to BB-28, the baby gives him a hintful shush motion. A confused Sam then joins Deadman in the shower, and the coroner turns it on. With the cover of the shower's noise, Deadman quietly reveals that he needs to tell Sam something that won't be picked up via audio or video surveillance by Die-Hardman. Deadman then reveals that he's uncovered some troubling information about President Bridget Strand's involvement in the Bridge Baby project. Not only was it conducted in secret for years, but she had also had intentions of not only using the BBs to detect BTs, but to incorporate them directly into the chiral network to facilitate travel to the beach. Knowing Die-Hardman was Bridget's right-hand man, Deadman fears that they can no longer trust him, especially considering neither of them know his true name or face. Deadman then cuts the shower off and takes BB-28 with him, sending Sam off alone to recover some lost data to hopefully learn more about their secretive director. Left with no way to detect BTs, Sam is forced to avoid them as he puts some distance between himself and Lou, as he makes more deliveries and connects more terminals, allowing their bond to weaken a bit to restore the BB's stability. Once it's back to working order, however, Deadman calls to reveal that another massive vortex storm is heading right for Mountain Knot City. Luckily, Deadman had gone out to the field for work with BB-28, escaping the storm. The pair then agree to meet at a cabin near the city so Sam can reunite with Lou. However, as soon as Sam arrives at the cabin, so does the storm. In a flash, the roof of the building is torn off, and Deadman, clutching BB-28 with all of his might, is pulled into the storm. Sam is swept up shortly after. Deadman then finds himself, luckily still holding BB-28, in another one of Cliff Unger's war-torn beaches, this one seemingly reflecting a battle on the city streets during the Second World War. Deadman scurries to find shelter as Cliff arrives with his skeleton squad to search for the baby that he's currently holding. Sam wakes up elsewhere on the beach and is able to make contact with Deadman before the pair agree to meet in the city's sewers. Sam explores the war-torn streets to make his way underground to reunite with Deadman. While they're separated by a set of metal bars, Deadman is able to hand Lou through them over to Sam, and the pair share a quick reunion. Sam reconnects to the BB, allowing him to stand a chance against Cliff, who's now fully on the hunt. After another gunfight with the confused commander, Cliff tries to once again snatch BB-28 from Sam's body. This time, as the men pull close, Sam pulls off Cliff's dog tags. Sam is given another flash of his buried memories of Cliff's escape, before suddenly awakening in his private room. He rushes over to Lou, luckily finding the baby safe in her BB pod. Deadman then arrives, explaining that he had found Sam passed out and had him brought there. Deadman then reveals that he's figured out why Sam keeps calling the bridge baby Lou, as he's learned of Sam's history during his research. Sam notices the dog tags he was able to bring back, and Deadman explains that they belonged to Clifford Unger, who he learned was a former US Army Special Forces officer. Unfortunately, that's all the information Deadman was able to dig up on him. Deadman then leaves to let Sam continue his mission westward, with his next stop being Heartman's lab. Curiously, Heartman noticed that Mama's body has shown no signs of necrotizing since she died. Hoping to study her corpse to understand more about the process, Heartman has Sam bring her body from Mountain Knot City to his lab. Lochner hands over Mama's corpse, and Sam takes it to Heartman's lab. Once Sam arrives and gets the lab's chiral network connection established, he enters Heartman's lab to find the man during one of his 3-minute trips to the beach. After Heartman is resuscitated, he introduces himself to Sam and explains his unique condition and motivations. Heartman then looks at Mama's body, noticing that, despite being dead for days, it shows no signs of decomposition. Unbeknownst to Sam, he was also sent with a preserved piece of an umbilical cord, presumed to be Mama's. After waiting out another one of Heartman's flatline beach searches, Sam is sent to connect the final few terminals on his way to Amelie in Edge Knot City. As he does so, Sam collects data from previous extinction events, showing that chiral matter has existed since before the dawn of man. Heartman notes that each of the 5 previous extinctions were accompanied by the appearance of a beach, and thus each had their own Death Stranding. Sam returns to Heartman's lab, where the man fakes a cardiac arrest so he can secretly talk to Sam without Bridget's knowing. He delivers a message from Deadman, revealing that the umbilical cord Sam delivered to Heartman wasn't Mama's. It was Bridget's. Heartman then shows Sam fossil records of the previous 5 extinction entities, noting that each one had an umbilical cord of their own. This leads them to the realization that Bridget Strand could have been an EE herself, and Sam remembers Higgs stating that Amelie was one. Not knowing the true nature between Bridget and Amelie's connection, they wonder if the president could have passed on her status as an extinction entity to her daughter. Either way, Sam has to get to Amelie, and fast. He's able to repair a chiral relay before using the BT's own power to pull buildings up from the tar against them. Angering a group of them, they inadvertently create a path for Sam to traverse across Higgs' tar belt towards Edge Knot City. As he reaches his destination, he sees Amelie walking atop the tar. As Sam tries to reach her, however, he's dragged into the depths of the pit, quickly finding himself upon the beach. There, he follows Amelie out to sea, before waking up just outside of Edge-Knot City. Sam is immediately met by Higgs, appearing behind him and sarcastically thanking him for nearly completing the chiral network. Higgs swiftly traps Sam in a pool of tar, before finally taking off his mask to taunt his rival face to face. Higgs then shows Sam that he has Amelie's Kipu, challenging him to a race to find her, with the winner getting to usher in the end of days. Sam then gets the penultimate remaining terminal online, retreating to his private room where he's visited by Amelie once again. She tells him not to worry, as she's somewhere Higgs can't find her, on the beach. She urges him to get the final terminal online, promising to meet him back in his room afterward. Before she leaves, however, she finally admits to Sam that Higgs was telling the truth. She is an EE. She promises that she doesn't want to end humanity, but instead to make everyone in the world whole. She then tells Sam to promise her that he'll stop her before she vanishes to await him on the beach. Sam finally connects Edge-Knot City to the chiral network, completing its coast-to-coast coverage and finishing Bridget's mission to reconnect the country as the United Cities of America. Sam then returns to his room to await his meeting with Amelie. When he falls asleep, he awakens on the beach, hearing Amelie's distorted voice. He turns to see a masked Higgs, who then points towards the waters, where a massive, kaiju-sized Amelie is walking towards them. Higgs then takes off his mask, revealing Amelie's face underneath, who tells Sam that she is the extinction entity. When Sam awakens from this strange dream, he leaves his room to go find Amelie, but as soon as he exits, he immediately realizes the truth of the premonition the night before. Walking towards him through the city is a colossal, human-like BT. Higgs then appears behind Sam to point out that embedded in its massive heart is a captive Amelie. He then has Sam meet his Ender as he transports Amelie before him. Higgs places his mask on Amelie, and she tells Sam that now that the great work of completing the network is done, she'll merge all of mankind's beaches into a single shore to create the largest extinction event of them all. While Sam doesn't know whether this is simply a trick by Higgs, Amelie nonetheless states that this is her reason for being, calling it the last stranding aloud. With the truth revealed, Higgs removes his mask from Amelie, wishing Sam a happy doomsday before leaving him to fight the massive BT. After a grueling battle with the massive being, Sam is able to defy the odds and finally bring it down, leaving nothing but a mass of chiralium in its wake. Higgs appears once again, holding Amelie, who's wearing his mask. Higgs shoots at Lou's pod, causing Sam to turn and take the brunt of the gunfire. Higgs then vanishes off to the beach, beckoning Sam to meet him there for the grand finale. Sam then repatriates, returning to his private room to plan out his final attack on Higgs. There, he's met by Fragile, who can send Sam to Amelie's beach, promising to follow him as soon as she can to get to him. Leaving Lou behind, Sam then lets Fragile touch him, following the love he holds for his sister, to transport to her beach. There, Higgs holds Amelie hostage and challenges Sam to a good old-fashioned boss fight. Sam then finally fights the man one-on-one on Amelie's beach, culminating in a fistfight. When Sam eventually defeats Higgs, Fragile finally arrives. Sam rescues Amelie, who takes off Higgs's mask, removing the powers that she once gave him. Fragile then punches Higgs in the face, finally taking out her frustration. Sam then ties him up, allowing Fragile to get her answers. She then gives Sam BB-28, who she was able to bring along to the beach, before leaving him alone to do whatever he needs to with Amelie. Sam and Amelie then reunite, and she reveals that she had been lying from the start. She was never under capture. She further explains that it was Die-Hardman's idea, as they had no other way to convince Sam to finish Bridget's mission. Regardless, Amelie states that everything worked in the end, inviting Sam to run along the beach with her until they make it home, just like Mario and Princess Peach. This is a real line in the game, by the way. As they run, however, Amelie and Sam get separated. When Sam goes to look for her, he instead sees Bridget Strand on the beach, and before her is Die-Hardman, holding her at gunpoint. Die-Hardman, finally invited to the beach, points out that he's holding the very same gun that started everything, which he'll now use to make things right. When Bridget tells him to fire the gun, he does, but quickly finds that she's unharmed. Bridget solemnly states that there is no atonement for them, pointing towards the waters. Die-Hardman looks to see the skeleton soldiers emerging from the depths. When their leader arrives, Die-Hardman is met face to face with a ghost from his past, his former commander, Clifford Unger. Cliff takes off Die-Hardman's mask, recognizing the man underneath as his friend, John McClane. John apologizes for his part in what happened to Cliff, but Unger immediately turns his attention to Bridget instead, demanding that she hand over his BB. She simply tells him that he's been looking in the wrong place, pointing towards Sam in the distance, currently holding BB-28. As Cliff and his men advance towards Sam, Amelie appears before him once again, suddenly pushing him off of a nearby cliff into the surrounding water. Sam is then forced to repatriate before awakening back in his private room. There, he's met by Deadman, who explains that Amelie brought him back before leaving a message. "I'm going to finish what Bridget started," before she completely vanished. With Amelie, Cliff, and Die-Hardman all likely still on that beach, Sam decides that he must return immediately. Deadman convinces him to give Lou a break, however, and the remaining Bridges team, along with Fragile, convince Sam to return east to their headquarters to regroup. Unable to use the beach to travel, Sam embarks on a journey back to where he started, Capital Knot City. On his way, Deadman and Heartman uncover the dangers of the last stranding. However, they believe a vengeful Cliff is behind it, still not knowing Amelie's true intentions. As Sam approaches Lake Knot City, he notices another massive chiral storm approaching, and he is once again swept up in its vortex. Sam then finds himself on one more warlike beach, this one resembling the Vietnam War. This initiates one final battle with Cliff and his skeletons through the jungle. After defeating him one last time, Sam approaches a collapsed Cliff, who looks at the BB and finally realizes what Bridget meant. He then stands and hugs his son before vanishing. Sam then has a vision of Cliff and John McClane talking in Lisa's room, before he wakes up in his own private room in Port Knot City. There, Deadman appears and plays a pre-recorded message from Die-Hardman, left in case he didn't return. In it, John reveals that Amelie invited him to the beach personally, using a doll as a guide. While he suspects it's a trap, he decides to go anyway. He then reflects on how everyone's been following Amelie's plan without question, even though no one's ever even seen her in person, not even Die-Hardman himself. He then reveals that when the UCA archives were restored, he learned the truth. Bridget had uterine cancer in her 20s and was infertile, which means Amelie can't be her daughter. He questions who Amelie really is, and whether the extinction entity theory is even real. Still, if there's even a chance she's responsible for the Death Stranding, he feels that it's his duty to stop her. Knowing that he may not return, Die-Hardman loads his gun with hematic rounds made from Sam's blood, hoping their connection will allow him to use it on the beach. He then closes his message by admitting that he has no powers. No dooms, no repatriation. He's just a man who's always run from death. That is, until now. At this point, all signs begin to point towards Amelie being behind everything. And as the chiral network begins to break down, things get even more dire. Fragile then arrives to confirm the worst. She finally got Higgs to talk, and he revealed everything about Amelie's plan for the last stranding, including her being the source of his doom's powers. While Sam initially denies it, Fragile explains that like Die-Hardman, Higgs carried a doll, and both were a connection to Amelie and her beach. Deadman backs her up, noting that Cliff carried dolls too. All three men were drawn to Amelie's beach to be used by the extinction entity. The only way for Sam to confirm who the EE truly is, however, is for him to return to the beach. One last time. Before he can do that, though, Fragile suddenly collapses into a coma. Deadman calls on Sam to retrieve a supply of cryptobiotes from Port Knot City. These bug-like organisms started appearing after the Death Stranding, and ingesting them helps the consumer restore their blood levels. The group hopes Sam's delivery will help revive her before she becomes stranded, and he quickly rushes off. However, Sam's progress is halted by the largest BT he's seen thus far. This gargantuan, whale-like creature dives in and out of the tar pits, weaponizing its chiral energy into a laser beam. Sam calls upon all of his abilities and Bridget's tech to eventually bring the beach thing down, leaving nothing but a mass of Corellium in its wake. After recovering the cargo and pressing on, Sam is able to make his delivery to Capital Knot City, finishing his journey back east and helping to bring Fragile back from the brink. With Sam back at headquarters, the entire Bridges team finally reunites. Fragile thanks Sam for saving her, and the group confirms what they've all come to accept. Sam, as the only one who can reach Amelie's beach, is their last hope. Fragile admits that she didn't escape the beach on her own. She was repatriated, pushed out by Amelie to clear the stage for Sam to return to finally finish things once and for all. The team then lays out the stakes. If Sam can convince Amelie to stop the last stranding, the world might still be saved. But if she refuses, Sam may have no choice but to kill her. However, if he does, the connection to her beach will close, and he'll be stranded there forever. While Sam knows that preventing this extinction will only buy humanity time, he agrees anyway, learning through his travels that they deserve the chance to keep rebuilding. He then takes on his final delivery, but not just for himself, for everyone who believed in him, for everyone who waited for him, and finally, for Lou. He hands over the BB to Deadman and Lochna, knowing that she's already been through enough. His last journey will be on his own. Fragile then helps him cross over one final time, and he holds his dream catcher as he reaches for Amelie across the void. In a flash, Sam disappears, and the others are left to await his return from the beach. Hopefully. Amelie then welcomes Sam back to her beach, offering once again, like she had many times over the years, to take him home. However, things quickly unravel as Bridget appears, finally revealing the truth to her son that she and Amelie are one and the same. Bridget confesses that she's the extinction entity, and that Amelie had never existed in the real world. Bridget was split, with her Ha in the world of the living and her Ka trapped on the beach. As Bridget aged and weakened, Amelie remained young and powerful. She created the persona of a daughter to hide the truth, but the moment has finally come to end it. She then states that the last stranding has already begun, and now Sam has a final decision to make. Do nothing, stay with her on the beach and witness the end of the world together, or sever their connection, cut her beach loose, and delay the extinction, allowing mankind to live to die another day. Left with the literal fate of humanity in his hands, Sam holds a gun, symbolic of the same one that began the Death Stranding. However, he puts it down, instead grabbing the woman he's known as his sister and pulling her close into a hug, assuring her that he's there for her, like she was always there for him. Sam remembers the promise that he made to Amelie long ago, to stop her when the time came. The EE explains that the bonds between people brought the world together, and she sees how important that is to Sam. She then volunteers to shut herself in while locking the rest of the world out, hopefully mitigating at least some damage from the last stranding. Sam then asks her why she has to stay on the beach, and she explains that she is the beach. She must stay there and ensure the extinction happens, even if Sam's actions prevent it for hundreds of thousands of years. She decides to pay the price for life's chance to continue to evolve and survive, promising that even though they won't be together, she'll always be connected to Sam. She then pushes him into the waters, and he soon washes up on the shores, finding nothing but a doll, his photograph of himself, Bridget, and the pregnant Lucy, and Die-Hardman's gun. Sam is then forced to wander the beach aimlessly, seemingly alone, until he's visited by the EE once again, explaining her entire history and why she shared her dreams of the extinction with Sam. Trapped on the endless beach, Sam takes the gun and places it to his own head. Hoping to finally bring his journey to an end, he closes his eyes and pulls the trigger. Only to hear a click, and another, until he finally gives up and falls to his knees. He then hears the EE tell him that she was the one who brought him and Cliff back together, to show him that he was never abandoned and he was never alone. The voice then urges him to live, before softly singing, "London Bridge is falling down." Sam then begins to hear other voices, his friends from Bridges, calling out from the other side. He sees BT-like footsteps in the sand and follows them to find Amelie, who points to the sky, urging Sam not to give up while telling him that he's still connected. Sam then looks up to see the 5 floating figures once again, the one in the center seemingly holding a baby. Sam is then pulled into the waters and looks down to see Deadman, frantically grabbing at his leg while holding Lou. Sam is then able to repatriate, returning to the world of the living once again, thanks to his friends pulling him back from the other side. Sometime later, Die-Hardman delivers an emotional address to declare the birth of a new nation, the United Cities of America. As a former soldier who once swore to protect the Constitution, he now pledges himself to the people. He urges the UCA to tear down walls and remove masks, finally taking off his own to reveal his true face to the public. Die-Hardman then honors the sacrifices of Bridget and Amelie, stating that though they're gone, their memories live on through the chiral network and in all of their hearts. He acknowledges that America was rebuilt not by one individual, but by all of their collective strength. Still, he quietly pays tribute to the unsung hero who made everything possible, someone whose name doesn't need to be said because everyone already knows it. As the speech ends, Deadman finds Sam preparing to leave, resigned now that Amelie is gone. Deadman tries to lighten the mood by explaining how they brought Sam back from the dead, mentioning their first failed attempt to use Amelie's doll. Instead, they used Bridget's umbilical cord, the most direct connection to Amelie's beach, but even that didn't work at first. For a month, they searched fruitlessly until Die-Hardman remembered the revolver. Tracing it led them to a distant edge of Sam's beach, where Mama was first able to see him. Lochner relayed the news, and Heartman confirmed it during a near-death experience trip to the beach. To rescue him, Fragile planned to sling Deadman and Lou across the beach, using umbilical cords crafted from Bridget's DNA as a tether. Ironically, the gun that started everything ended up saving Sam. Amelie had told him that it had another purpose. It wasn't a weapon, but a lifeline. A stick that became a rope. Deadman then pulls Sam close to reveal one final secret. Cliff's wife, who they still believe is BB's mother, was named Lisa Bridges. Cliff himself was killed by a man named John, a former Special Forces operative turned presidential aide, who later returned under a new identity as Die-Hardman. Records of this were buried in the chiral archives, with only Sam granted access. Deadman doesn't trust John, but he's willing to work with him for the sake of the UCA. On Sam's way out, Die-Hardman privately confesses everything. He admits that he killed Clifford Unger. not for the country, but out of love for Bridget. John notes that Cliff had saved his life many times, explaining where his nickname came from. And when Cliff returned as a ghost, Die-Hardman knew he had come for revenge. However, Cliff saw the man he once knew trying to do right, and chose to forgive him instead. Die-Hardman then breaks down, overcome with guilt, but clings to the hope that Cliff brought him back for a reason, to finish what they started. Sam rejects the idea of an immortal president, reminding John that the fear of death is what gives life its value. Sam states that if America is to be rebuilt, the old habits truly have to die hard, and that includes the people that cling to them. Sam prepares to leave, but Deadman meets him with grim news. The order to decommission a now unresponsive Lou has come through. The BB was never technically alive, and now that the nation is restored, they can't risk it necrotizing. Sam is then given the choice to perform the incineration himself. Before he goes, Deadman disables Sam's cufflinks. If Sam removes them, he'll be completely off the grid and untraceable by the UCA. However, Deadman warns him that once he uses the incinerator, the system will reconnect him. Outside, Sam runs into Fragile, who tells him that she's just launched the UCA's first officially approved private delivery company. She admits that she wasn't able to kill Higgs, instead exiling him to an eternal solitude on the beach. When she asks Sam to join her new company, he declines, still feeling like the very same man she met in the cave before he reconnected America. Fragile then grabs him and reminds him how far he's come. Sam doesn't flinch, his phobia now gone. Fragile insists that he's learned to connect, to touch, to feel. However, he insists that everything he touches, he loses. Sam then walks away with Lou's pod to make one last delivery. Once he's made it to the incinerator, Sam quietly prepares to say goodbye. After thanking Lou, he plugs into her pod again. This time, Sam is flooded with the memories of John and Cliff planning the escape, as well as the day of its failed attempt. Sam then takes off his cuff, removing him from the grid. As Lou's pod lowers into the incinerator, he quickly grabs it, plugging in one final time. At this point, Sam sees the full truth of the events of the day Cliff died. Watching the memory play out with himself inside his mother Lisa's room, the memory suddenly stops just before Bridget forces John to pull the trigger. Cliff then speaks directly to Sam, stating that while he was only ever good at tearing people apart, his son has an exceptional ability to bring people together. Cliff then hands the baby form of Sam to himself, before he pulls his son in for a hug. The memory then resumes as the gun fires, killing Cliff and bringing Sam back to reality. With the truth of his origin now revealed to him, Sam places his cuffs in the incinerator and burns them instead, choosing to live free of the connected network that he had helped build. He then takes Lou out of her pod, frantically trying to wake her up. Unfortunately, a BT-like umbilical cord emerges from Lou, leading Sam to fear the worst. As he holds the baby to his shoulder, he's instantly relieved when she begins to cry. Sam then looks to see a happy, revived Lou, holding Amelie's Kipu. Sam then cradles Lou, holding her close as the echoes of the BBs sacrificed in the past watch over them. Sam then exits the incinerator, holding Lou while walking out into a storm, seemingly normal, timefall-free rain. As the two look forward towards their uncertain future together, the clouds part and the sun shines, revealing a rainbow in the storm's wake. Sometime later, Sam looks at the photograph of his old family, himself, his mother Bridget, his wife Lucy, and their unborn daughter. A baby's hand then suddenly meets his, and he speaks out to his adoptive daughter, calling her Louise. And with that, we reach the end of the first Death Stranding, leaving Sam and Lou to an unwritten future in a rebuilt America. That is, until they wind up in Australia, ready to travel across another continent to build the bridges to reconnect society once again. But that's a story for another time. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Huge thanks to the Patreon subscribers and channel members on screen for supporting the channel. You could be one of them too by checking out the links in the description, and you'll get to watch videos early and stuff. Like this one was like a month early. Speaking of the description, I'd like to thank the GameScript wiki blog for creating a transcription of the game that was extremely helpful in writing the script. Link in the description to their site, and there's also a link to a mod to restore the Monster Energy cans to the director's cut of the game, which was extremely important to the creation of this video. Also, remember to like the video, comment on what you'd like to see next, and subscribe for more gaming timelines and story explanations and all that kind of stuff. I've got a lot of stuff I'm working on right now. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a big year. Till next time, I'm Suggestive Gaming, and now you're in the know.